Alien billionaire's daughter wakes up pregnant after one night with a poor human. Lyra Kale had never left the golden towers of her father's city. The Kale family palace, a sky-high fortress of glass, chrome, and shimmering energy, was her entire world. Guards, servants, and machines attended to her every need. She had everything: clothes made of light, foods that shifted flavor with her mood, and toys that could fly through the room on their own. Yet somehow, she felt trapped. Luxury could not replace curiosity, and curiosity had begun to itch at her restless mind. That night, the city outside her tower sparkled with neon lights that painted the streets in green, purple, and gold. From her window, Lyra could see humans moving through marketplaces and alleys, carrying baskets, laughing, arguing, bargaining. She had watched them before, hiding behind the safety of her palace's viewports, but tonight, something inside her insisted. She wanted to be there among them for real. She dressed quickly, choosing simple clothes, jeans, and a dark jacket, clothes that hid her alien elegance. Her hair, long and silver, shimmered faintly, and she tied it into a simple braid to avoid attention. Guards at her door would have stopped her, but she bypassed them with a flick of her wrist and a subtle manipulation of the palace's security system. It was easy for her, but the thrill made her heart race. The streets below smelled different than her palace. Smoke from food stalls, the scent of wet metal after a passing hover cart, the tang of strange fruit she had never seen. It all hit her senses at once. Humans rushed past, speaking in a rapid jumble of words. Lyra tried to smile without standing out, but her presence was unusual. Her skin shimmered faintly under the neon lights, a subtle glow that some people noticed, but most were too busy with their own lives to care. Lyra wandered into a busy market. Aliens of all shapes bargained for goods, and humans sold crafts, tools, and simple foods. She moved slowly, absorbing everything. She had read about human lives in history books, seen holograms of their struggles, but this was different. The energy of the streets, the unpredictability, the rawness, it fascinated her. She paused by a small stall, watching a human boy struggling to lift a crate of food onto a shelf. His brown eyes were focused, his hands covered in scratches, but he moved with determination. Lyra smiled, impressed by his effort. Humans had this fire in them, something no luxury could create. Then chaos erupted. A group of aliens, taller and bulkier than most, stormed the market. They demanded credits, threatening vendors. The humans panicked, trying to hide their goods, while the aliens' energy weapons glinted under the neon lights. Lyra's stomach tightened. She had never been in danger like this. The boy from before, whose name she would soon learn was Joran, acted without hesitation. He grabbed a hovering crate and sent it rolling into the path of the attackers. The aliens stumbled, cursing, and that brief moment allowed some humans to escape. Lyra gasped, amazed at his bravery. Most beings with money or power would have fled, but this human risked himself for others. Lyra's instinct told her to hide, but she also felt a strange pull toward him. She ran to the alley behind the stall, hoping to avoid notice. But the aliens had noticed her too. She froze, unsure if she should use her energy manipulation to repel them. Before she could decide, Joran appeared, blocking her path. "Follow me," he shouted. Without waiting for her answer, he ran down the narrow alleys, dodging hover carts and leaping over small walls. Lyra followed, her long legs keeping pace, her heart pounding, not with fear, but with an exhilarating mixture of adrenaline and curiosity. They ducked into a small, abandoned warehouse. The smell of oil and dust filled the space, but it was safe. Joran leaned against a crate, breathing hard, but his eyes sparkled with triumph. "Why are you helping me?" Lyra asked, her voice trembling slightly. "I help anyone in trouble," Joran replied simply, shrugging. "Doesn't matter if they're rich or poor." Lyra blinked. She had never met anyone like him. Most people she encountered either bowed before her wealth or avoided her altogether. This human didn't care about her clothes, her glowing skin, or her background. He only cared about doing what was right. They waited until the market calmed. Outside, she could hear the distant sounds of sirens and shouting, but for now they were alone. Lyra felt an unusual warmth in her chest. She had never felt this connection before. "Come on," Joran said finally. "You can't stay here forever. Let's find somewhere safe to, I don't know, eat," Lyra laughed. It was a strange, human laugh that felt good to make. They left the warehouse and wandered into a small, crowded cantina nearby. The air smelled of roasted meats and sweet drinks. Lyra noticed the difference immediately. No one cared about wealth here. No one bowed, no one stared. They were just people, humans and aliens mingling, enjoying the night. Joran ordered food for both of them, explaining what he could afford and making Lyra laugh with his dry humor. She realized that he had lived a life of struggle, yet he was kind, clever, and full of humor. She had never experienced anything like this. As they ate, Lyra shared stories of her life, not the palace, not the wealth, but the curiosity she had about humans, the things she had read, and the way she often felt trapped by rules. Joran listened, nodding, occasionally teasing her, but always kind. Hours passed and the cantina emptied. They stepped outside, the streets quieter now. Lyra felt a strange sense of freedom, of being part of a world she had only watched from afar. Joran led her to a small rooftop where they could see the city from above. "You're brave," he said, looking at her, "but you don't have to be alone. Some things are better shared." Lyra felt her chest tighten. There was something about his words, something that made her heart beat faster. The city lights reflected in his eyes, and for a moment the difference between them, human and alien, poor and rich, didn't matter. One impulsive decision followed another. Lyra felt drawn to Joran, and he seemed to feel the same. For one night they laughed, shared stories, and allowed themselves to connect in ways neither of them could explain. It was simple, yet extraordinary. When the morning light crept over the horizon, Lyra realized she had stayed longer than she intended. Joran was asleep nearby, his face peaceful despite the struggles of his life. She watched him, feeling a warmth and admiration she had never known. For the first time, she understood human resilience, not just in surviving, but in loving, in connecting, in being real. Lyra returned to her palace later, slipping past her guards. The luxury she had left behind now felt hollow. She knew the night had changed something inside her. Humans were not just creatures to study. They were beings to respect, to understand, and perhaps to care for in ways her family's rules could not predict. As she lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling, a question nagged at her mind. What if one night could change everything? And indeed, that night would change everything. Lyra woke slowly, the soft sunlight spilling across her room in golden streaks. For a moment, she thought the day was like any other. The palace was quiet, her servants moving silently in the background. Everything looked perfect, familiar, safe, but an uneasy feeling gnawed at her. Something was different. She sat up, stretching, and felt the strange flutter in her stomach. Her hands went to her abdomen, lightly touching it, and she froze. That flutter was not normal, it was something more. Lyra's advanced alien physiology was precise. It never made mistakes. The tests she had secretly run on herself that morning confirmed it immediately. She was pregnant. Pregnant. The word echoed in her mind like a bell. Her heart raced, her chest tightened, and 1,000 thoughts collided at once. She remembered Joran, his laugh, his courage, the warmth of his presence the night before. And now that night had consequences she could not ignore. Panic threatened to take over, but Lyra forced herself to think. She could not let anyone know, not yet. Her father, Mayor Kale, was a man who ruled his empire with absolute control. He would never allow a human to touch his daughter, let alone father a child that could affect the Kale legacy. The thought of his reaction made her stomach churn. Yet, despite fear, there was another feeling she could not ignore: curiosity. This child, a mix of human and alien, was unique. The combination of human ingenuity and Kale genetics could be extraordinary. The potential fascinated her, even as worry held her heart tight. Lyra paced her room, thinking through the impossible. How could she face Joran? How could she tell him? And what would he think? Humans were resilient, yes, but their lives were fragile. She feared rejection, ridicule, or worse, heartbreak. Finally, she decided to seek him out. It was impossible to imagine keeping such a secret alone. She dressed quickly in simple clothes, taking care not to reveal her identity to anyone outside the palace. She activated her invisibility cloak as she stepped through the front gates, a small luxury she could afford but rarely used. The streets were alive as usual, filled with humans and aliens. Lyra navigated through the crowd, focusing on the small neighborhood where she had last seen Joran. She found him at a small workshop, repairing old tools and devices with careful precision. His brow was furrowed, his hands blackened with grease. He looked up when he sensed her presence. "Lyra," his voice carried surprise, disbelief, and curiosity all at once. "Yes, it's me," Lyra said softly, unsure how to start. "We need to talk." Joran put down the tool he was holding, wiping his hands on a rag. "About last night?" he asked, half smiling, but there was caution in his eyes. Lyra nodded, taking a deep breath. "It's more than last night. Something unexpected happened." She hesitated, then decided honesty was the only path. "I am pregnant, Joran, and you are the father." Joran's eyes widened and he blinked several times. He tried to speak but found no words at first. Then slowly a calm determination settled in him. "Pregnant, that's wow," he said. "Okay, let's figure this out." Lyra felt relief and fear wash over her simultaneously. He wasn't rejecting her. He wasn't angry. Instead, he was thinking, analyzing, planning, just like humans always did. He had a strength she had never seen in the luxury of her palace, a practical courage that faced challenges instead of hiding from them. Over the next few hours, they talked, walking through the crowded streets. Lyra explained her fears, her father, the Kale family rules, the possible scandal if anyone found out. Joran listened patiently, nodding. "My life is simple," he said finally. "I don't have money or influence, but I know one thing. I take care of people I care about. If this is happening, I'll support you and the child. No arguments, no regrets. We'll find a way." Lyra felt a lump in her throat. His words were simple, yet they carried more power than any decree her father had ever given. Humans might be fragile, but their hearts, their integrity, their courage, they were unbreakable. She realized why she had been drawn to him in the first place. The days that followed were a mix of secrecy and preparation. Lyra returned to her palace each night, careful to hide the signs of her condition. She monitored her pregnancy with advanced sensors, noting its rapid progress. Her alien biology accelerated development, and she could already feel subtle changes in her body, a gentle rhythm that hinted at the life growing inside her. She learned about human resilience from Joran, who taught her how to survive in environments with limited resources. Simple things, finding safe food, maintaining shelter, moving quietly, were things Lyra had never considered in her palace life. Yet, each lesson fascinated her. The ingenuity humans used to solve everyday problems was something even her advanced alien mind admired. Meanwhile, the palace was restless. Mayor Kale had noticed unusual activity around his daughter and dispatched his aides to investigate. Lyra's absence, her strange behaviors, and her secret communications with Joran all raised questions. She felt the pressure mounting. One misstep could ruin everything. Despite the tension, Lyra and Joran found moments of quiet joy. They explored abandoned sectors of the city, sharing stories of their lives. Lyra told him about her childhood in the palace, the constant rules, the emptiness behind wealth. Joran shared tales of struggle, of working long hours to survive, of helping his younger siblings, and of small triumphs that brought joy. Lyra realized that despite their differences, their values aligned in unexpected ways. Humans cherished relationships, courage, and ingenuity over wealth. They found meaning in connection, in shared struggle, in small victories. It was a philosophy Lyra had never understood until she saw it with Joran. As weeks passed, the pregnancy became harder to hide. Lyra noticed subtle changes, slight swelling, sudden fatigue, moments of sharp intuition about the child. She kept this from her father and palace staff, relying on Joran for support. Together, they devised strategies to avoid detection. She left the palace late at night, used hidden passages, and communicated with him only through secure channels. Lyra's admiration for Joran grew with each passing day. He was resourceful, brave, and selfless. He never complained about their circumstances, never asked for more than what was available, and always considered her feelings. For the first time in her life, she experienced what it meant to be truly equal with someone. Money, power, and social status were irrelevant here. Only trust, care, and courage mattered. One afternoon, as they rested in a quiet park overlooking the city, Lyra felt a strong kick. The movement startled her, and she instinctively placed her hand over her stomach. Joran noticed immediately and knelt beside her, concern flashing in his eyes. "It's alive," Lyra whispered, awe in her voice. "It's moving, I can feel it." Joran smiled, gently placing his hand over hers. "It's okay, you're okay, we're okay." That moment, simple and unadorned, filled Lyra with a profound sense of purpose. She realized that this child was more than a consequence of one night. It was a bridge between worlds, human and alien, rich and poor, strength and vulnerability. The child was a symbol of unity, hope, and possibility. However, reality was never far behind. Rumors began to circulate in the palace about her secret excursions. Loyal aides noticed discrepancies in her schedule. Mayor Kale, ever vigilant, increased surveillance. Lyra knew that the time to face the consequences would come soon. She prepared herself mentally. She would not hide forever. She would not abandon Joran or the child. Humans might be fragile, but they faced challenges head-on. And now she was learning to be human too, not just in body, but in courage, in trust, and in love. The next step was clear. Lyra had to reveal the truth to Joran fully, and together they had to plan for what lay ahead. Their lives were about to change forever, and the challenges would test every strength she had ever known. But for the first time, Lyra felt ready. She was no longer just an alien billionaire's daughter. She was a mother, a partner, and a human in every sense that mattered. And with Joran by her side, she knew they could face whatever the galaxy had in store for them. Lyra knew that hiding her pregnancy could not last forever. The moment she stepped out of her palace each night to meet Joran, she risked exposure. She had grown used to the thrill of moving through crowded streets unnoticed, but now there was more at stake. This was no longer a game of curiosity. It was the life of her child, the bond with Joran and her own freedom. Joran, ever practical, suggested they move to a safer location for the time being. He knew the city well and had connections in small human enclaves where outsiders could live without scrutiny. Lyra was hesitant at first. Leaving the palace, leaving luxury, leaving everything familiar, it terrified her. But she trusted Joran, and she understood that some risks were worth taking. They settled in a modest apartment in a bustling human neighborhood. It was a small space, barely enough for the two of them, but it was theirs. Lyra marveled at the simplicity. No servants, no machines attending to her every need, no walls that shone with energy. Just walls, furniture, and life lived in its rawest form. The first days were strange for Lyra. Cooking for herself was a novel experience. The smells of simple human meals, the way bread warmed in an oven, the taste of freshly boiled water on tea leaves, felt comforting in ways she had never imagined. She watched Joran prepare meals with a kind of joy and care that fascinated her. Every movement he made showed thought, effort, and patience. Humans might not have her wealth or technology, but they had resilience and resourcefulness. One morning, Lyra felt the baby kick more strongly than ever. She placed a hand over her stomach and smiled. "It's getting stronger," she whispered. "I can feel it." Joran crouched beside her, placing his hand lightly on hers. "It's alive, yes, and it's lucky," he said softly. "Lucky to have you as its mother." Lyra's chest tightened with emotion. It was not just gratitude, it was admiration, respect, and something deeper she had not expected. Joran had a quiet strength, a way of looking at life that made obstacles feel like challenges to overcome rather than walls to hide behind. And now, that strength extended to her and the child they would raise together. Life settled into a cautious rhythm. Lyra spent her days learning about the human world, shopping at markets, walking through crowded streets, and observing how people lived without the advantages she had taken for granted. Each experience deepened her appreciation for human endurance and creativity. Even when things went wrong, a missing ingredient, a broken tool, or a delayed delivery, humans adapted quickly, finding solutions where others might panic. Joran continued to teach her. He explained how humans survived on limited resources, how they solved problems without relying on technology, and how communities supported one another. Lyra realized that humans valued things differently. Trust, loyalty, and courage mattered more than wealth or power. She began to internalize these lessons, seeing the world with new eyes. But not everything was peaceful. Lyra's father, Mayor Kale, had begun to notice irregularities. Surveillance reports showed that Lyra had been absent from the palace during odd hours. Her attendants reported seeing unusual visitors at the palace gates. Merck's curiosity quickly turned to suspicion. He was a man who controlled his empire with precision and would not tolerate uncertainty, especially regarding his daughter. Merck Kale sent discreet agents to investigate. They were skilled at tracking, and Lyra soon sensed their presence. The first time she noticed, she froze. Shadows moved differently in her peripheral vision. There were whispers outside her apartment door, strange sounds in the stairwells. Lyra felt a surge of fear but did not panic. She had Joran with her, and together they could handle this. Joran assessed the situation calmly. "We need to move," he said. "For a while until they stop looking." Lyra nodded. Though fear gripped her, she trusted him completely. They gathered their few belongings and left at night, slipping through alleys and side streets. The human neighborhoods were alive with activity, but their knowledge of the paths allowed them to remain unseen. They found a small abandoned workshop on the edge of the city, a place humans rarely visited. Joran rigged it for safety: locks, alarms, and hidden exits. Lyra watched him work, amazed at his ingenuity. In the palace, she had access to technology beyond imagination, yet here Joran created solutions with scraps, wires, and sheer intellect. Humans were capable of wonders beyond the scope of luxury. Days turned into weeks, and Lyra's pregnancy progressed rapidly. Her alien biology accelerated the development, making her feel changes almost daily. She experienced unusual energy surges, vivid dreams, and sharp instincts about the world around her. Joran noticed these shifts and adapted, helping her manage the changes without alarm. One afternoon, as they repaired old devices together, Lyra felt a strong kick. She gasped, holding her stomach. Joran's eyes widened, then softened. "It's growing fast," he said quietly. "We're going to have to be careful from now on." Lyra nodded. "Yes, and I want it to be safe. No one can know." Their conversations often turned to the future. They discussed names, hopes, and dreams, not only for the child but for themselves. Lyra had never experienced this before. In the palace, she had been surrounded by people, yet she had been profoundly alone. Now she felt a connection deeper than anything she had known, with Joran, with the child, with the world itself. But danger was never far. Mayor Kale intensified his search, sending more skilled agents, equipped with advanced tracking devices and analysis tools. Lyra felt the pressure mounting. One night, she detected them outside the workshop. Their sensors glimmered faintly in the darkness, scanning for life signs. Joran acted quickly. "We have to create a diversion," he said, scanning the area. "Follow me." He led her through hidden passages behind the workshop. Using simple, human-devised gadgets, he redirected the sensors' readings, masking their presence. Lyra was in awe of his skill. No amount of palace technology could have moved as quietly, as cleverly, as Joran did. Humans thrived on ingenuity and quick thinking, not just power. They returned safely, hearts pounding but spirits intact. Lyra realized that even in the face of danger, humans found solutions without panic. She began to understand the true meaning of resilience, the kind that came from necessity, not privilege. Days later, they met with a small network of trusted humans who lived on the outskirts of the city. These people had survived hardships, helping each other in a world that often ignored them. They offered guidance, shelter, and resources for Lyra and her unborn child. Lyra watched the interactions with fascination. Humans built communities from trust, empathy, and cooperation. Wealth and power mattered little here. One evening, as Lyra rested while Joran prepared a simple meal, she spoke softly. "I never understood humans before. I thought wealth and technology made life easier, but this is different. You survive with courage, kindness, and ingenuity. It's beautiful." Joran smiled, placing a hand over hers. "That's what humans do. We don't have much, but we have heart. And that's stronger than anything money can buy." Lyra felt a warmth spread through her chest. That warmth was something she had never felt in the palace, despite all its luxuries. This was connection, trust, love. These were qualities that even advanced technology could not replicate. As her pregnancy progressed, Lyra and Joran began preparing for the child's arrival. They discussed medical care, safe spaces, and lessons Lyra could teach her child about both alien and human worlds. She felt a sense of purpose unlike anything she had ever known. The child would inherit the best of both worlds, and she would do everything to protect and guide it. However, Lyra knew they could not remain hidden forever. Mercale's resources were vast, and his determination was relentless. The day would come when confrontation was unavoidable. But for now, they lived quietly, learning from each other, growing stronger together and preparing for the challenges ahead. Lyra looked at Joran one night as they sat under the dim glow of a street lamp outside their temporary home. "Do you ever think about the future?" she asked. "All the time," Joran replied. "But I think the future isn't something that just happens. We create it, step by step." Together, Lyra smiled, feeling hope and courage fill her heart. She knew the path ahead would be difficult, filled with challenges from her father, the Kale Empire, and the wider galaxy. Yet she also knew that humans had a remarkable ability to rise above obstacles. And now she was learning to be human too, not just in body, but in spirit, in heart, and in courage. With Joran by her side, she felt ready to face whatever came next. Their child, the symbol of unity between human and alien, had already begun to change her world. And one day, perhaps, it would change the galaxy too. Lyra and Joran had managed to remain hidden for weeks, living quietly in their modest apartment and preparing for the arrival of their child. Each day brought its challenges, but also small victories. Lyra marveled at the ingenuity of human life, the way people solved problems, adapted, and thrived even with limited resources. Joran was the living example of that ingenuity, patient, clever, and endlessly brave. Yet despite their careful precautions, the shadow of her father, Mercale, loomed ever closer. He had intensified his search, deploying more agents with advanced tracking technologies. Lyra knew it was only a matter of time before they found her, and she dreaded the moment when her father would step into her new world. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and cast long shadows across the city, Lyra felt a sudden surge of unease. Her senses, enhanced by her alien biology, detected something unusual. She glanced toward the street and there they were, agents in discreet uniforms scanning the neighborhood with their sensors. They were looking for her. Joran noticed her tension immediately. "We need to move," he said quietly, taking her hand. "Follow me. I have a route they won't expect." They slipped through back alleys, using narrow paths and hidden staircases to avoid detection. Lyra marveled at Joran's knowledge of the city. He had lived here all his life, navigating its twists and turns with ease. Humans might lack the advanced technology of the Kale Empire, but their intelligence and resourcefulness were unmatched in their own way. Eventually, they arrived at a safe house in a forgotten corner of the city, a place where humans lived without attracting attention. It was small and plain, but secure. Joran checked every entry point, ensuring they could remain hidden for a while. Lyra watched him work, feeling both admiration and gratitude. He was clever, brave, and unwavering, a stark contrast to the sterile luxury of her palace life. In the following days, Lyra focused on preparing for her child. Her alien physiology accelerated the pregnancy, and she began to experience more pronounced changes, stronger kicks, sharper instincts, and unusual surges of energy. She shared these experiences with Joran, who remained calm and supportive. He adjusted their living space, creating safe areas and ensuring she had access to nutritious foods. "You're amazing," Lyra said one evening as they sat together, her hand resting on her growing abdomen. "I've never met anyone like you." Joran smiled. "Humans survive. That's what we do. You just have to learn to trust it." Lyra realized he was right. Trust, not technology, not wealth, not power, was what made humans strong. She had lived her life surrounded by luxury, yet it was Joran's simple courage and reliability that gave her true security. Despite these peaceful moments, Mayor Kale's influence grew stronger. He had discovered anomalies in the palace's energy grids, strange patterns of absence, and subtle clues that pointed to Lyra's secret. One day, his agents finally cornered them, appearing outside the safe house with authority and precision. Joran sensed the threat immediately. "Stay calm," he whispered. "We can handle this." Lyra nodded, though fear gripped her. She had faced challenges before, but this was different. Her father was not just an obstacle. He was a force of immense power, a man who controlled vast resources and wielded authority without hesitation. Yet she trusted Joran. Together they had faced danger before, and together they could face this. When the agents entered the safe house, they were met with an unexpected scene. Lyra stood in front of Joran, her hands glowing faintly with energy, a subtle warning, not aggressive but unmistakable. The agents paused, sensing the child within her and the unusual strength of her presence. Joran stepped forward calmly. "We are not resisting," he said, "but you must understand she is pregnant. Any sudden action could endanger her and the child." The agents hesitated, exchanging glances. They had been trained to respond to threats with force, but Joran's calm authority and Lyra's alien presence gave them pause. Humans were resilient, yes, but this human and this alien together created a force that could not be underestimated. Finally, the lead agent spoke. "We will report back. Do not attempt to flee again." Once the agents left, Lyra sank to the floor, her hands still on her abdomen. "That was close," she whispered. "Too close." Joran knelt beside her, holding her hand. "We'll manage," he said. "We've done it before, we can do it again." Lyra nodded, drawing strength from his confidence. She realized that survival was not just about hiding. It was about courage, intelligence, and trust in one another. Humans thrived in adversity because they faced it head-on, adapting and innovating. She had learned this from Joran, and now it was her strength too. In the days that followed, they worked tirelessly to strengthen their defenses and prepare for the child. Joran taught Lyra how to fortify their safe house using simple human ingenuity, creating barriers, setting alarms, and establishing escape routes. Lyra contributed her alien knowledge, blending advanced technology with practical solutions. Together, they created a secure environment, a small sanctuary in a world filled with danger. As the pregnancy progressed, Lyra began to feel the child's presence more strongly. She could sense its movements, its energy, and its potential. The child was a symbol of unity between human and alien, of courage and ingenuity, of trust and resilience. Lyra felt a profound connection, not just to the child, but to Joran and the human world he represented. One evening, as they watched the city from a quiet rooftop, Lyra spoke softly. "Do you think my father will ever accept this?" Joran considered her question. "He might not understand it now," he said. "But humans adapt. We face challenges and we find solutions. Maybe one day he'll see what we see, that the child is not a problem but a bridge between worlds." Lyra smiled faintly, comforted by his words. She had lived her life in a palace of rules and restrictions, yet here in the human world she discovered freedom, courage, and hope. Humans were fragile in body, yes, but their hearts were strong, their minds quick, and their spirits unbreakable. As the days passed, Lyra and Joran continued to strengthen their bonds, learning from each other and preparing for the future. They explored the city at night, finding hidden gardens and quiet parks. Lyra marveled at the ingenuity of humans, how they created beauty and life even in spaces overlooked by others. She felt a sense of belonging, something she had never experienced in her palace of gold and glass. Despite the looming threat of her father, Lyra felt empowered. She understood that true strength was not measured in wealth or technology, but in courage, resourcefulness, and the willingness to protect those you love. Humans embodied these qualities, and Joran exemplified them perfectly. One night, as she felt the child kick strongly, Lyra whispered, "We will protect you. We will give you the world even if it is hard. You will know courage, kindness, and love." Joran held her close, smiling. "And you will too. We'll face this together, all of us." In that moment, Lyra realized the truth she had discovered over the past weeks. Humans were extraordinary not because of what they had, but because of what they gave: their hearts, their courage, their ingenuity. And now she was part of that world, carrying a new life that would continue the legacy of resilience and hope. Merkel's agents would continue to search, and challenges would come. But Lyra and Joran were no longer simply an alien and a human hiding in the shadows. They were partners, ready to face the galaxy together, armed with courage, ingenuity, and the unbreakable bond of trust. Lyra looked at Joran, feeling a warmth in her chest that had nothing to do with alien energy or palace luxuries. It was human, real, and undeniable. "Thank you," she whispered. Joran smiled, squeezing her hand. "No need. This is what humans do. We survive, we protect, and we love." Lyra nodded, feeling hope and determination fill her heart. Together, they were stronger than any obstacle, smarter than any threat, and braver than any challenge. And with their child on the way, they would continue to prove that courage, intelligence, and heart were the true measures of strength in any world. The day had come when hiding was no longer an option. Lyra's pregnancy had reached a point where it could not be concealed, and the agents of her father, Merkel, were closing in with relentless precision. Every corner of the city seemed under surveillance, every alley monitored, and every neighbor a potential informant. Lyra knew that the moment for confrontation and resolution had arrived. Joran held her hand as they stood on the rooftop of their temporary home, looking out over the bustling city below. His expression was calm, though Lyra could see the tension in his eyes. "We've prepared as best we can," he said. "Now we have to face this, together." Lyra nodded, feeling a mixture of fear and resolve. She had spent weeks learning about human resilience, about courage that did not come from power but from heart and ingenuity. She knew she could not rely solely on her alien abilities. She needed Joran, and she needed herself. Their bond and the life growing inside her were their greatest strengths. They descended into the streets, moving cautiously toward the center of the city where her father's influence was strongest. Mayor Kale had sent word that he would personally investigate the anomalies surrounding his daughter. Lyra's pulse quickened. She had never imagined a confrontation with him outside the walls of her palace, and the thought of standing before him as a mother-to-be filled her with equal parts dread and determination. Joran guided her through narrow alleys and crowded marketplaces, avoiding the patrols and agents that had become ever-present shadows in their lives. Humans, both young and old, stared curiously at the strange pair, an alien woman glowing faintly under the neon lights, and a human man walking with confidence beside her. None interfered, understanding instinctively that these two were on a path of consequence and perhaps admiration for their courage. Finally, they reached the palace gates. Mayor Kale stood there, tall and imposing, his eyes sharp and calculating. Behind him, a contingent of elite guards waited, their posture rigid and ready. Lyra's heart pounded, but she stepped forward, holding her chin high. She would not cower. She had learned human courage, and now she would embody it. "Father," she began, her voice steady, "we need to speak." Merrick's eyes narrowed, studying her carefully. "Lyra," he said slowly, "you have been reckless. Your actions risk disgrace, scandal, and even danger to our family. Explain yourself." Lyra took a deep breath. "I am pregnant," she said clearly. "The father is Joran, and he will protect and support me and this child. We are not asking for permission. We are asking for understanding." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Mayor Kale's expression was unreadable for a long moment. Then slowly he stepped closer. "You have chosen a human," he said, his voice low but sharp. "A man with no rank, no wealth, no influence. Do you understand the consequences?" Lyra nodded. "Yes, I do. But humans have something you do not always see in your world of power: courage, loyalty, and ingenuity. Joran has all of these, and he will protect this child. He will protect me, and I trust him completely." Merrick studied her, his gaze flicking to Joran. The human stood firm, eyes steady, unwavering despite the immense presence of the Kale patriarch. Merrick's eyes narrowed further, a mixture of disbelief and curiosity. Humans were supposed to be fragile, unpredictable, and weak. Yet here was one who embodied strength not through wealth or technology, but through heart, courage, and intellect. "You are certain of this?" Merrick asked finally, his voice calmer but still commanding. Lyra met his gaze. "I am certain. And I am asking you not to interfere with our choice. This child is not a threat. It is a bridge between our worlds, between our strengths. Please do not destroy that potential." For a moment the silence was profound. The city seemed to pause, holding its breath. Mayor Kale, a man used to commanding obedience and absolute control, faced something he could not crush with power alone. He felt the human courage radiating from Joran, the unshakable determination from Lyra, and the undeniable presence of life that could not be denied. Finally, Merrick spoke, his voice measured. "If what you say is true," he began slowly, "and if this human proves worthy, then perhaps there is a place for him and the child in my empire. But understand this, the road will not be easy. You will face scrutiny, suspicion, and obstacles. Only courage, integrity, and unity will see you through." Lyra felt a wave of relief. It was not full approval, but it was enough to allow hope. She knew the road ahead would be difficult, but she also knew that she and Joran were capable. Together, they had already faced threats, navigated challenges, and protected one another. The child growing inside her would inherit the same resilience, the same courage, and the same ingenuity. Joran stepped forward, bowing slightly in respect, a gesture of trust and understanding rather than submission. "We are ready to face whatever comes," he said simply. "We have each other, and we have the future to protect." Mayor Kale studied him again, a faint glimmer of respect appearing in his eyes. He had underestimated humans before, but this human, was different. He carried not wealth, not status, but something equally powerful: heart, courage, and intelligence. Days turned into weeks, and the palace slowly adapted to their presence. Joran proved himself through simple acts, solving logistical problems, assisting the palace staff, and showing unwavering dedication to Lyra. His ingenuity and practicality earned him the quiet respect of those around him, while Lyra's determination and grace inspired admiration. The pregnancy progressed, and Lyra felt the child growing stronger each day. She could sense its energy, its intelligence, and its potential. It was more than a child. It was a symbol of unity between human and alien, a testament to courage, ingenuity, and trust. One morning, Lyra awoke to find Joran already awake, preparing a small breakfast. He had learned to cook using palace ingredients, combining flavors in ways that honored both human simplicity and alien refinement. The aroma filled the room, warm and inviting. "Good morning," Lyra said softly, placing a hand on her stomach. "Good morning," Joran replied, smiling. "How's our little bridge between worlds today?" Lyra laughed quietly, feeling a warmth that went beyond the room, beyond the palace, beyond the city. It was hope, love, and courage, all intertwined. The day passed with calm and preparation. Lyra and Joran walked through the palace gardens, discussing the future, the child, and the possibilities that awaited them. Lyra felt stronger than ever. She had learned that courage did not come from isolation or power. It came from connection, trust, and resilience. As the sun set, painting the sky in hues of gold and purple, Lyra felt the first true movements of labor. The child was ready. Panic tried to rise, but she calmed herself, remembering Joran's steady presence, the lessons of human endurance, and the strength within her own heart. Joran held her hand, guiding her to a prepared chamber where medical support, both human and alien, awaited. Lyra's heart raced, but she drew courage from the life inside her. This was the moment she had prepared for, the culmination of weeks of learning, trust, and love. The birth was a challenge, yet filled with wonder. Lyra marveled at the child's first cries, the energy that radiated from the small body, and the profound connection that flowed between them. Joran whispered softly, offering encouragement, guidance, and unwavering support. Finally, the child was born, a beautiful blend of human and alien traits, radiant with life and promise. Lyra held the child close, feeling a warmth and connection that transcended species, culture, and expectation. Joran knelt beside them, eyes shining with admiration and love. "This is our future," Lyra whispered, tears of joy in her eyes. "Our child, our hope, our bridge." Joran smiled, placing a gentle hand on Lyra's shoulder. "Yes, and we will protect it, guide it, and help it grow, together." Mercale entered the chamber quietly, observing the scene. For the first time, his expression softened completely. He had witnessed courage, ingenuity, and heart, not in a palace of wealth, but in the bond between human and alien, in the creation of life, in the triumph of trust and love. "You have done well," he said quietly to Lyra and Joran. "This child will change our world. Perhaps even the galaxy." Lyra smiled, feeling hope, courage, and unity fill her heart. The road ahead would have challenges, but they had already proven that heart, intelligence, and resilience could overcome anything. Humans and aliens together could achieve extraordinary things. As night fell and the city lights shimmered below, Lyra, Joran, and their child rested together. The palace, the city, and even the galaxy seemed to pause, acknowledging a moment of triumph, the power of courage, ingenuity, and love. Lyra looked at Joran, feeling a bond deeper than any technology or luxury could create. "We did it," she whispered. "We did," Joran replied, smiling, "and this is only the beginning." In that quiet moment, the galaxy seemed full of promise. Human courage, ingenuity, and heart had triumphed, and together with alien knowledge and strength, they had created something extraordinary: a new life, a new hope, and a bridge between worlds. The future was uncertain, yes, but for Lyra, Joran, and their child, It was filled with infinite possibilities. They had faced fear, danger, and uncertainty, and emerged stronger, united, and ready to shape the world in ways that no one could have imagined.